اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا الشمس كورت وإذا النجوم انكدرت وإذا الجبال سيرت وإذا العشار عطلت وإذا الوحوش حشرت وإذا البحار سجرت وإذا النفوس زوجت وإذا الموءودة سئلت بأي ذنب قتلت وإذا الصحف نشرت وإذا السماء كشطت وإذا الجحيم سعرت وإذا الجنة أزلفت علمت نفس ما أحضرت فلا أقسم بالخنس الجوار الكنس والليل إذا عسعس والصبح إذا تنفس إنه لقول رسول كريم ذي قوة عند ذي العرش المكين ذي قوة عند ذي عرش المكين مطاع ثم أمين وما صاحبكم بمجنون ولقد رآه بالأفق المبين وما هو على الغيب بضنين وما هو بقول شيطان رجيم فأين تذهبون إن هو إلا ذكر العالمين. لمن شاء منكم أن يستقيم وما تشاءون إلا أن يشاء الله رب العالمين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
أبا عبد الله.
Yeah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Imam Hussein Islamic Center, virtually of course. It is indeed our distinct honor, privilege and pleasure to host every one of you virtually here this evening, especially for the grandest of, in my opinion only, very unqualified opinion, in the grandest of Eids in the Shia calendar, which is the Eid al Ghadeer, in which we recognize and we celebrate the imamat of Imam Ali alayhi salam and the recognition of the Holy Prophet of Imam Ali as the rightful successor in the guardianship and the promotion of Islam. Let us congratulate the entire Muslim Ummah and the holy progeny with the warmest of our salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Inshallah, this evening we have a slightly different format, and one that we've returned to that we were doing last year as well, where we will inshallah facilitate a discussion with my dearest brother and dearest Sheikh, Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi, about tonight's celebration and discussion, which is of course about Eid al Ghadeer. And to begin, inshallah, we'll have a few words from Sheikh to give us a brief and an overview of Eid al Ghadeer itself and introduce the concept and the event to us, inshallah. Faddal Sheikh, salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. A'udhu billahi min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Firstly, thank you for being with me and holding my hand here, because I hate being alone when I'm up here speaking to the camera, even though there's, as you mentioned, it's a virtual attendance here. Firstly, I'd like to say this isn't your opinion, it's God's opinion, that this day is the grandest day. It's not, there's no ambiguity, there is a consensus on this, that the grandest of all ayat, and nothing even compares in the slightest, is the day of Ghadeer. Nothing compares, nothing holds a candle to this day. And why would there be an issue? The only issue is, unfortunately, this is where everything is disputed. So when it comes to Ghadeer, this is where everything is disputed. How's it disputed? I'll explain here. Firstly, when you mention God, the Jews believe in God. the Christians believe in God. All the sects of Islam believe in God. And then when Allah Azza wa Jal said, even the atheists believe in God. And you will know this because I always used to mention that when you see, like, for example, someone have hatred towards God, like, an atheist will say, I hate God. And then I will mention, like, do you hate Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny? They'll say no. I say, because Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny are figments of your imagination. So you wouldn't hate something that doesn't exist. But your hatred towards God is because God exists. And unanimously, everyone accepts that God had messengers that came. Whether the Jews don't believe in Jesus and the Christians don't believe in Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but everyone accepts that there was messengers. The contention you will find is always with successorship. If you look at the Jews at the time, Banu Israel, at the time, the believers in Musa, there was contention over Yusha ibn Nun, Joshua. When with Isa, as you know, there was contention over Shamun or Peter, sorry. So Simon, Peter, was the one that they would have issues in accepting. With Islam, no doubt, once again, the issue is imamat. And this becomes the problem here. But then you must ask yourself, why is it necessary for me to answer those that doubt this issue? What's the point of having the Day of Ghadeer? Why do we celebrate the Day of Ghadeer? Doesn't it cause contention? Isn't there only 2 Eids for the Ummah? Eid al Adha, Eid al Fitr. Why is it that we have an issue in mentioning this day? Because, to put it this way, it is the crux of the faith. And using Pauline terminology, when he mentions that if we can't prove that Jesus rose from the dead, then and the Son of Man was crucified, or as he mentions, the Son of God, then our faith is in vain. Well, if you can't prove imamah, everything is in vain. Why? Why is everything in vain? Because it's like you would have a deist approach.
Yeah.
That God created the world and said, see, I'm going to go work on another project. Let everyone deal with themselves. But that isn't the case. That it is essential for us to have belief in this day. This is primarily where we begin.
That's the defining point of being a Shia, isn't it? That you must recognize the successorship from the Holy Prophet of Islam to Imam Ali alayhi salam. Without that, there is no Shiaism.
Well, there is no Islam. Because even with other sects of Islam, they say if you don't believe in this, well, you have the Wahhabi, why does he say that the Shias are kafir? They don't say because we reject God, because they know we believe in God.
Yeah.
They don't say because we reject the Prophet. They say because we reject the Sahaba. So we reject we call us Rafida because we reject their caliphate. So the caliphate is important for all the sects. It's not only important for us. Yeah. So it's fundamental for Islam.
Yeah, and the thing that sets us apart is
who we say is
exactly
the
actual successorship. Yeah, yeah. Sheikh, we have. If I can mention to everybody who's watching on YouTube and on Facebook, if you have any questions you'd like to pose about the topic of Eid al Ghadeer, you're welcome to post those questions, and inshallah we'll do our best to get to those questions, and we'll have an opportunity to have Sheikh comment on those and to answer those as well. But to begin with, we do have a couple of questions, Sheikh, that we can get started with. And the first, I'll ask you a couple of them, and then I think we might rearrange that order just so we can address it a bit better, if that's all right with you. So. What is the meaning of Ghadeer, and why was the event named Ghadeer? Right. So that's the first question. But I think this is
just ask what comes to your mind.
Just ask what comes to my mind.
Whatever comes to your mind in the discussion, let it be free flowing. So we've got to make this as genuine
inshallah
as possible for our listeners, because we're sitting together.
Absolutely.
Let us enjoy this gathering.
Inshallah. Why wasn't the announcement of the imamat, of the successorship, announced immediately after Hajj or before leaving Mecca or at any point before reaching Ghadir Qum? Was there some significance behind this specific or particular location, or it's a loaded question, I guess, but
Yeah, it is because if you look at, there's an importance in one of the hadiths that we have to always mention.
Yeah.
Where the Messenger of God, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, says to Imam Ali, "Anta minni bimanzilati Haruna min Musa, illa annahu la nabiyya ba'di." You are from me, like you are to me, meaning like Aaron was to Moses, except there is no prophet after me. In other words, the only difference between your relationship with me and the relationship of Aaron with Moses is prophethood. Otherwise, everything else is intact. Now, otherwise the prophet would have said, accept prophethood, accept this, accept that. He only
would have made it conditional.
He would have made it conditional. So anyway, why is this important? Because when Nabi Musa was sent to Pharaoh, before he undertook the message to Pharaoh, he turned around and said, وَاجْعَلْ لِي وَزِيرًا مِنْ أَهْلِي. Give me a wazir, an assistant in this. In other words, he wanted a partner in this message. Why? Because he wanted someone to carry this burden with him. So the first time you'll see Allah say, اذهب إلى فرعون. In speaking in singular form, go to Pharaoh. And then later he'll say اذهبا in the dual form.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you have Aaron go. Yeah. So he didn't send him to Pharaoh on his own and say, look, this isn't working out. From the outset, he began by giving Moses his Aaron. And from the very beginning, Rasulullah, the beginning of the da'wah, right at the beginning, first he was told to bring his kin and his relations.
Yep.
So, Dawat al-Ashira. He brought them there, and this is at the time, because you need to remember, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam will talk in the Gregorian calendar. So if you take a look at, we are here, it's 610 AD. So we're sitting there, 610 AD. The Prophet has been told to reveal that he's a prophet. For 3 years, it's only secret. The only ones privy to the revelation are Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, Imam Ali alayhi salam, and Sayyidah Khadija alayhi salam. They're the only three that are privy to the revelation. At 613 AD is the beginning where the Prophet is told to tell first his family, which is normal. You know, if you look at ourselves, firstly we guide ourselves, then we worry about our family, and then after our family, because charity begins at home. You begin with the people at home. So the message is beginning now. 6:13. It's time for you to let everyone know.
Yeah.
What does he do right at the beginning? Who will assist me in carrying this message? How old is Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam?
He's a young boy.
13 years old.
Yeah.
Do you imagine, like I say, look, I'm going to carry the grand message, and this 13-year-old boy is going to be my wazir. He's going to be my successor. He's going to be the one that assists me in carrying this message. So Ghadir was another point of him letting the people know about the successorship. But you mentioned why Ghadir.
Yes, why Ghadir?
Why not the Hajj?
Why not at Hajj? Why not before all of the attendees of Hajj, all of the pilgrims, before they've left? Why not do it at that point? You know, you've done your final tawaf, you're getting ready to leave Mecca for wherever your home is. Why not do it at that point?
Obviously, there is a spiritual relevance to this. But let's take a look. When you're in Hajj, you are preoccupied with the rituals of Hajj.
Yeah.
The other thing, the Messenger of God, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, wanted this to be unassociated with anything. It had to be something of its own significance in its own place. That it's not related to anything else, it's not relatable to anything else. Secondly, the Messenger of God had to make it at the point where everyone's finished Hajj, so this is not related to Hajj. Because they did. Okay. Some people have tried to relate these verses to Hajj.
Right.
Okay,
So to clear
so he
it-
wanted it to be on its own.
a distinction between...
So distinction, he didn't even tell them there's nothing in the sermon speaking about Hajj, about anything. This gathering, Ghadir, is only for one purpose.
And Ghadir is a place. Ghadir Akum is a
Well,
place.
it's a place where it's a pond.
Yeah.
So it collects all rainwater is to be collected there. But also it had to do with the location was very important because of the location was in a valley. So the voices can be heard, the sound carries, the acoustics of the place is also very
So
important.
they were on a hilltop or
No, they were inside a valley, the people were
inside the
there,
valley, right.
and then he lifted, he put saddles, they made a pulpit, he stood on the pulpit where everyone could hear, and he actually mentioned whoever's present to tell who is not here. So it's not only you people here, the 100,000 plus.
Yeah.
And then he also mentions that you have to tell not only who's not here, but from father to son until the day of judgment. So it's a perpetual message. This is the reason why we have to remember this every year.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest problems is we tend to carry Ashura every year, but we don't carry this message. This message has to be given the same importance of Ashura, because this is where the imamate was shown to the world, and this is where the imamate was killed on the day of Ashura. So you need to show the beginning, and obviously as an end, but where it was wounded, an almost fatal wound, yet it will be revived with the restoration of justice with the Imam Sahib al-Amr. Salamullah alayhi.
Okay. So then following on from that, Sheikh, we know why Ghadir Akum was chosen. Of course, not through the choice of the Holy Prophet, but through God's own divinity. That location was chosen because the Prophet didn't act except for under instruction of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Then we've talked about what is Ghadir Akum, what is the place, etc., etc. Now, could we reflect on the sermon of the Prophet on that occasion just for a moment? What did the Prophet actually say, and what did he declare anything? And if he did, what was it that he declared? And if he asked for bay'ah from the people, how did they show that bay'ah?
Well, firstly, when we look at the sermons in general, there are many great sermons that you could look at. If you look at the sermon of Ali ibn al-Hussein, Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, in Damascus, you look at the sermon of Fadakiya, the sermon of Fatima alayhi salam, and all these great sermons. The sermon of Ghadir is considered to be one of the greatest sermons that was delivered. It's a long sermon, it's not short.
Yeah.
And it has a great reference. In fact, I mentioned this last night in a discussion, that there is more of a reference to Imam al-Mahdi than there is to Imam Ali alayhi salam in this sermon, because it's talking about a perpetual message. It's not talking about a message that just stops at one point and that's it, it's over. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling the people that this message hasn't halted with me. In fact, in Sahih Bukhari, he mentions لا ينتهي هذا الأمر. He actually says this, that this command does not end, this religion basically does not end until there are 12 caliphs after me, all will be from Quraysh. And if you look at this hadith, the one that narrates it actually says, then he said something after that, but I don't remember. Because conveniently the Prophet named who the 12 were,
Yeah.
but obviously you're not going to remember, because then you eliminate his heroes. So he can't do that.
Yeah.
So he managed to listen to the whole hadith and
Missed the
it's
most
it's
vital
like when,
part.
you know, when
yeah.
someone's telling you a story and you go, all right, what's the punchline? Didn't hear that part. You know, like next time you tell me a story,
Yeah.
you know, next time have a point, you know, at least when
Yeah.
you tell me the story. So anyway, this person's relaying the narration without a point. So
So sorry, Sheikh. Let me stop you. So the the Prophet stops everybody at Ghadeerakum,
Yeah.
creates a pulpit from all of these saddles.
Yeah.
He calls out to people who have moved beyond Ghadeerakum to return, to come back.
And he waits.
And he waits for those people who haven't as yet arrived to arrive.
We don't know if they waited hours or days even.
Yeah,
But they were waiting there in the heat.
yeah,
That he made sure, what's it called? He made sure that that everyone had come from the Hajj. That no one, but he chose a spot where they would actually go
converge.
through.
Yeah, so
They would
right,
converge.
so
there.
is it
See,
right?
so people would actually come there probably because where the water is.
Yeah.
And then they would continue. So he made those that had passed return.
To return,
And
yeah.
there were those that were coming. You know how Hajj, not everyone returns at
Yeah,
the same
of course,
time.
yeah, yeah.
Same thing here.
Yeah.
That those that returned, once they had all come
Yeah.
together, because who's who was there of the companions?
Yeah.
There's no one that's not there.
Yeah.
Everyone's there. And to prove that everyone's there is if we want to go forward into the future, we're talking about 25 years into the future.
Yeah.
When Omar appoints the Council of Six to appoint the third Khalif, if you remember when he says, Unshidukum billah, you know, I ask you in the name of God, was I not the one that was appointed? And they said, Allahumma na'am. Who said this? Abdurrahman bin Auf, Uthman bin Affan, Talha, Zubair. Everyone that was in the Council of Six
Yep.
was there.
Referred back to.
They were there.
Yeah.
It's not like,
Yeah.
I heard my cousin's best
Yeah.
friend tell me about that
Yeah.
day. No. They were there.
Yeah.
They were there. They gave allegiance. So on that day, what actually took place, the Prophet took Amir al-Mu'minin, Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he raised his arm until you could see the whiteness of the armpit. So in other words, that there would be no ambiguity as to who the Imam was.
Yeah.
Firstly, he said to the people, am I not alastu awla minkum min anfusikum? Do I not have more right over you? Because you know, this is as if, because God knows what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
He knows there's going to be these people that turn up and say, Mawla means friend.
Yeah.
So the Prophet gives the context of the Mawla here. Awlawiyyi, do I have more right over you than you have over yourself? How much right does the Prophet have over you?
Absolute right.
Absolute.
Yeah.
Did you know the concept of wilaya is a new concept? Did you know if you look before Rasulullah, you will not see this with any other prophet? Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
It's actually the wilaya was given to the Prophet. You will not find it anywhere where they have the absolute authority. So this is what you're talking about. This is absolute authority. That there's nothing to the point that the messenger of God is told by the creator of the heavens and the earth that wallah, he says, they do not believe until they use you to be the one that discerns when they have any issue that is there. You're the one that decides. You're the one that arbitrates. And then he says, and then after that, when they have accepted your decision, they do not have anything within their hearts that shows even disagreement. So not only are they supposed to outwardly show they accept, if they even have a doubt inwardly, they do not believe. And then God says, وَسَلَّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. They absolutely submit in absolute form. The Prophet says, أَلَسْتُ مِنْ أَوْلَ مِنْكُمْ مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ. They said, بَلَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. This is what the Quran has said. You have more right. And then he said, مَنْ كُنْتُ مَوْلَى فَهَذَا عَلِيُّ مَوْلَى. This same authority is Ali's. He didn't say it's a notch. See, this is what kills me. It's not a notch beneath.
Yeah.
Even in the Quran.
Yep.
When Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, أطيعوا Allah, obey Allah, وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم. He doesn't say, أطيعوا Allah, Allah is the ultimate power, the ultimate authority. Then he says, وأطيعوا الرسول, but he doesn't say وأطيعوا أولي الأمر. He says وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر.
At the same time. So
The
it's not,
same level.
Yeah.
There's no difference. God is the highest level, then that's the next notch.
Right.
The Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt are the next notch. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam says this, Man kuntu mawla, fa aliyu mawla. Allahumma wali man wala. وَعَادِي مَنْ عَادَهُ. Allah is on the side of whoever's with Ali. Allah is the enemy of whoever is against Ali. To that point. And I was watching a lecture which I showed you before for one of my friends and teachers. He mentions that the Prophet in the Sermon of Ghadir actually threatens to expose who the munafiqs are.
Yes.
And he says because of this, they are the first to give allegiance. They are the first to give allegiance. Why? So no one says they're the munafiqs. So they're the first people to come in. And even of those that have given allegiance, you will find of the companions that gave allegiance in general, like in one instance where it's mentioned in I'm talking about, these are Sunni hadith, not only Shia hadith, that mentions that they say, congratulations, O Abu Talib, you are now the Mawla, you are the master of every believing man and every believing woman. You know, because they didn't have more than two genders back then. So back then, that's what they used to work with.
Right.
At
So
that time.
let's rewind it a little bit on a few things that you've said. First of all, the first thing that comes to mind is all of what you just said, man kuntu mawla, and so on, and the next couple of points that you made feature prominently in many du'as, especially if you recited, did any of the amal yesterday for Eid al Ghadeer, which was the actual day was yesterday here in Sydney. If you did any of the amal, one of the parts of the amal recommended act was to recite Dua Nudba. And in Dua Nudba, this features very prominently as well. Of course, you'd know that Man kuntu mawla fahada aliyun mawla, and then onwards that whoever's with Ali, they're with God, and so on and so on and so on. It's just so beautifully done. I wanted to just make mention of that. If you haven't read or recited Dua Nudba, it's highly encouraged. It's absolutely beautiful, especially early morning on a Friday morning. There's nothing like it, really. It's wonderful. And inshallah, you've seen some of our live streams as well. We try to do that every Eid morning. We begin the program with Dua Nudba and then the Eid prayer as well. So, Sheikh, the Holy Prophet invited back all the people, waited for the people to attend. He raised the hand of Imam Ali alayhi salam and said, "This is my successor." Paraphrasing greatly, but this is my successor. If I am your leader, then this is your leader, and so on and so on and so on. What did the people do then? So it's fair enough for me to raise your hand and say, this is my second in command. So that's not what I mean for Imam Ali, but this is my second in command. If I'm speaking with Sheikh and speaking to my friends here, anything that if you're a friend of mine, you're a friend of Sheikh, like that. And certainly I don't mean this to Imam Ali or the Holy Prophet at all. What would I then expect my friends or the people who I'm addressing to do? And what did the Prophet expect from those people in that time?
Well, obviously, when he's saying that Amir al-Mu'minin is an authority, the people have to come and give allegiance to show this is a sign of you, showing you accept this authority. You have to we give allegiance to God every day. We say, wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I say, wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Wahdahu la sharika la. I testify there is no God but Allah. He is one with no partners. That I need to, this is my attestment, this is me giving my allegiance to God on a daily basis. And I testify that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was the one that gave me this message. Now, with the second testimony comes the third testimony. Because who carried this message? If it wasn't for the Imams, and I don't want to go into a discussion because we'll be here all day when we're talking about the Imamat and how it was, we wouldn't have received the message. Could you imagine what kind of a message? Who was it that mentions, I think it was Ibn Abbas, I think it was Jabir ibn Abdullah. He says the first time we prayed behind Amir al-Mu'minin, when he took the imamah, when he was accepted as the Khalif by the people, he says we prayed the prayer of Rasulullah, which we had not prayed in a while. 25 years, they hadn't been praying the prayer of Rasulullah. And this isn't something where I'm attacking other sects, but other sects concede to this. Like the salah was cut and paste. For example, Uthman introduced 3 adhans on a Friday.
Yeah.
Umar ibn al-Khattab introduced Salatu Khayrun min an-Nawm for morning prayer. You know, it was a cut and paste religion. Like, for example, even the
Closing of the hands.
the Zoroastrians, where they showed respect to their kings, Omar said, this is good, add it to the prayer. And all these other things like praying on the carpet, which they don't pray on earth, all these other things, they weren't used to this. They weren't used to this because the Messenger of God never prayed like this. This is not only present, obviously, in Shia hadith, it's also present in Sunni hadith. It's there.
Yeah.
And it's undeniable.
Yeah.
So they said, we weren't used to this. And if you see, the religion was in this manner. It was in tatters. Amir al-Mu'mineen came back, but they still didn't allow him to rule.
Yeah.
And that's another story.
Yeah, that's another story, Sheikh. So people come to give their bay'ah, right? What's the manner in which it's given? Do I come and shake your hand? Do I raise your hand in mine and say, yes, I give you my allegiance?
Well, with bay'ah, it's generally where you put your hand beneath his hand.
I see.
So you put the leader's hand above your hand to show that I am beneath your command.
It's like a handshake,
so it's a handshake, but it's at the bottom.
Right.
You put your hand under their hand and say that I accept you as my leader.
And it's symbolic,
You know,
his
it's
hand
symbolic,
above yours.
You know, that you are my master.
Yeah.
I submit to this. Even just showing this, and it has to be willing.
Yeah.
Willingly. You can't do it by force. You know, other caliphs that force people to give them allegiance. Has to be, because you, in the end of the day, if your child, when you force them to believe in God, when they're free and they're living on their own, they're going to say, you know, my parents and their religion can go to hell. I've got nothing to do with this. It's not about force. La ikraha fi din. There's no compulsion in religion. You know, that's why your child should be convinced in what they believe in. If they're not, how are they going to? That's why you find a lot of people that turn away from religion, and you talk to them, they never understood religion to begin with. You know, their concept of religion was always an unknown. It was halal and haram.
Yeah,
Don't do this,
very,
do
very
that.
elementary sort of.
Which is not religion. It's not about the religion. There's more to it than this.
It's more than
about
dogmatic and
understanding
ritualistic. I mean, if
of course, but they're important, but it's not what the religion is. And so the people gave their allegiance to the Imam. They accepted the Imam holistically. But you know how humans are, they forget. Human beings, that was, you know, if you want to say that there was an original sin, you know how they say, Adam, yes, there was an original sin, if you want to say, it's forgetfulness. God says, وَلَقَدْ عَهِدْنَا إِلَىٰ آدَمَ فَنَسِي. That Adam forgot. We told Adam, beware of Satan, of shaitan, but he forgot. And this is something we actually inherited. So the people did bay'ah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, but even though it was reiterated over and over and over and over again, they just went about their daily lives again, you know?
Yeah, and over time you forget the event.
It's not about only forgetting. If I was to randomly go out there and pick out, like, Australia is predominantly a Christian nation. Go grab all the Christians in Australia and ask them about the Bible. What's the percentage you think know about the Bible?
Very few, but on the other hand, if you ask an average Muslim about the Holy Quran,
that's what I'm trying to say. I'm talking if you're talking about living in Australia. If I went to any Islamic country, if you ask them, for example, how does a Muslim learn their religion? I'll tell you, how does a Sunni learn his religion? How many Sunnis do you know open Sahih Bukhari Muslim read them?
Few.
They learn from Imam al-Jama'ah Friday khutbah.
Yeah.
How many Shia?
And Sheikh, I'd argue that
that's what
we're the same.
How many Shia do you know read what's going on? They just sit and they listen to the sermon. So most people don't know. They just accept what they're told. Until they research. So the people around, they were worried about they'll know the price of lentils and rice more than they knew anything else.
This week versus last week, this season versus last season.
That's it. They're not too interested in the idea. Even, you know, by the responses the people gave. When for example, when they were reminded about Ghadeer, you look at this, when I think it was Fatima sallallahu wasallam alayha, when she asked them, do you not remember your ahad, your promise you made with the Prophet that Ali is the successor? They said, oh, you were too preoccupied. Ali was too preoccupied with burying the Prophet, and so we gave bay'ah to Abu Bakr. If Ali had come, we would have given bay'ah to him. This is what they said. So for them to say something like that, it shows how humans are.
Yeah.
See, the problem with people, they see this and they say, oh, this person's accursed. But no, that's not the way it is. On the contrary, if that's the way it is, then God would have just killed everyone from the start. No, human beings make these errors, and this is what these days are for reminding people.
Well, see, in politics, they say that the people's memory is short.
Yeah.
Right? So in a political cycle, in an election cycle, whatever you did early on in the cycle doesn't really matter as you get closer to the election. So whatever you agreed to at a particular time in history changes as you get closer to when it becomes to fulfill your needs,
believe it or not,
to benefit you.
Believe it or not, boxing, for example, they always, if you notice the fight, they feel out the start. The last 30 seconds, the exchange warms up. Why? Because that's the last image is left in the judges' heads.
Yes.
And this is how life is. It's what happened last. That's why you see when they're campaigning, politicians are out smiling.
Yeah.
You know, I used to say, like, before election day, I used to say, for Christmas, people wear a Santa suit. For Easter, they wear the suit of an Easter bunny. For election day, they don on the garb of humanity and they pretend they're human beings again.
Yeah,
and then when they remove it, they return.
That's
as they
right,
say, the higher the monkey climbs, the more it shows its tail. So this is what happens. Then they go back to normal. Then I didn't know we had a prime minister till Scott Morrison made a video recently. You don't know where they just disappear. They go into occultation.
There's some fantastic satirical and parody websites that you can visit for more about our dear Prime Minister and other political figures. But
but this is not. It's not. I'm not having a dig at him personally. Anyone in this position,
Prime Minister,
anyone in this position, it's not an easy position to be in any. But anywhere you are in the world, people have short memories. 100%. They don't remember because do you know why? Because I really believe in the goodness of people.
Yeah.
People are good. Yeah. And that's why they always give others the benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. And that's why you're able to, that's why people are able to fool people, because people are good in their nature. Yeah. And so that's why every now and then, there's not that many of them, evil people come in and cause turmoil. Yeah. And they are able to dissuade the people. If you notice, like, when Abu Bakr took power, he didn't come in to take power. This is essential. He didn't come in like Yazid. He didn't come in like with an iron staff. He actually, when the people came up to him, he was dressed in white. He was well groomed, and he was perfumed. So he was it was pleasant on the eye. And people would talk to him and would say, "Are you the Khalifa of Rasulullah?" And he would weep and say, "I've been burdened to carry this burden." And people go, wow, he's not accepting this. Yeah. But Amir al-Mu'mineen mentions the khutbah al-Shaqshaqiyya. Yeah. He says, بينما هو يستقيلها في حياته ثم عقدها إلى ابن الخطاب بعد وفاته. During his lifetime, he was acting like he didn't want it and it was burned. Then why did he gave it to another person after he died? Yeah. How could you pass it if you didn't really want it?
Yeah, exactly.
Of course you wanted it. You just were displaying you didn't want it. Yeah. See, but the truth is, if we follow what we were meant to follow, we would live the best lives. It's like when people sit there and say, because obviously a discussion leads to another, the current pandemic we're in, people go, when's it over? I said, لا يغير الله إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. If you actually read that verse, that Allah doesn't change the plight of people until they change what's in themselves. Yeah. And if God inflicts us with anything, no one can get rid of it except Him. No one. Yeah. So in other words, people should be turning to God, doing tawbah, istighfar, and repenting for all the things. Like if you look at all the famine in the world, all the evil in the world, all the wars that people are, like I mentioned last night in my discussion, Allahu Akbar, everyone's so silent about what the Taliban's doing.
Yeah, yeah.
No one's talking about Taliban. If I mention Taliban to you, say, isn't that the reason America uses a pretext to enter
Yes.
Afghanistan to get rid of
And
what's
now,
the Taliban doing
and now
there
they've left and negotiated an exit with the Taliban.
That's
We
right.
don't negotiate
So
with
where are the
terrorists,
people here? Where are the people? Why haven't the people stood up and said, these are the same goons you came to get rid of us, rid for us? Why are they still there? So then, and you're worrying about an illness. These things, all these problems we have are from what humanity does.
we do this to ourselves.
We do this to ourselves. So and then we complain. Alhamdulillah, I'm happy in the situation we're in, really. Everything's all right. The only problem is getting the kids to do their homeschooling.
I feel for all the parents out there doing homeschooling and with their kids and what it is a tough thing to do for the kids. Imagine being a kid locked up in the house 24/7 virtually. You might get a chance to go outside to the park, might get a chance to go at least take a half an hour walk outside, something, but essentially you're locked in the home.
Every kid's got the best technology. I'd love to be at home as a kid.
Set aside the technology, Sheikh. The kids are stuck at home with you and me, with our parents.
Well, it depends
with
on
their
the parent.
parents.
If the parent's on their back, yeah. But if they, like, imagine a child right now, they'd be gaming all day. There'd be no one bothering them. Honestly, think about this.
Is that what's going on in your?
No, God forbid. They'd be respawning every 5 seconds, not worrying about what's happening next.
We should set up a COD server for you. Sheikh, from the event of Ghadeer, that obviously had dramatic impacts on Muslims and the entire ummah throughout, and that was the starting point, of course, right? The next most critical point in Islamic history is the demise of the Holy Prophet of Islam and what occurred at that point. Of course, that's related to Ghadeer as well. But let's translate that into why, first of all, why is Ghadeer not discussed more and more openly on a wider platform in amongst Muslims generally, and even outside of that? What is, if there are narrations in the books of all of the sects, and anybody who calls himself a Muslim understands that there are narrations that relate to them and to this subject, why is this not discussed?
Is this with regard to the Shia or the Sunnah, you're saying this
Both.
question?
I think even in Shiism, it's not.
With regard to the Sunnah, Ashura is not given any significance when it was the greatest catastrophe in the history of the world. What took place in Ashura, it was a massacre.
Yeah.
That's not mentioned. But with the Shia world, I'll talk about with myself, for example. We used to always be overseas at this time because you're coming back from Hajj.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the first time I really gave an open lecture about Ghadeer would have been last year. It's the first year we missed out on Hajj.
Yeah.
Generally, we're not in the country.
That's true.
But you go overseas, no. It's blazing overseas. Everything, even in Lebanon, in the current situation they are in, everyone's like, if I open my WhatsApp, the statuses are just flowing. Everyone's into them, even though they're in a very difficult situation.
Yeah.
The day of Ghadeer is celebrated with fervor. It's not something where they hold back. The thing is, when we mention and we talk about it, we're the only people that bring it out. In the past, you could say, yes, it wasn't given that same attention. But it has been. I think the world's come, especially like, for example, with the martyrdom of Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. When I was a child, we weren't given it that same emphasis as it is now.
It's changed a lot.
The
in the last
world
20 years.
has changed, I feel, with celebrations. And this has, the big contributor to this, I do believe, is social media.
Yeah.
And the internet. People always give the internet a bad rap. I've always been a supporter of the internet.
Yeah.
I love technology.
It's like any tool. You can use it for good or evil.
I love technology for this, because this is what the spread of religion, the spread of happiness to people, to let people know that there's something that God loves you. God has sent ways for you to turn back. Like if you look at the rewards you get for feeding people on the day of Ghadeer.
Yeah.
If you get the rewards for khawtuka fi din, if you go up to and visiting people, if you look, there's a lot of emphasis on every happy occasion to visit
Yeah.
other people,
Yep.
to let them know, because sometimes you hear the stories where they say they found a body in a house that hadn't been
Yeah.
till someone
yeah.
smelt it.
Yeah.
Allahu Akbar.
Yeah.
This is a crisis.
But Islam also encourages not to live by yourself. To
Oh, obviously, but we should be visiting people. Obviously, not now, not in the lockdown.
No,
I'm not
of
telling
course.
people to break
Yeah.
the law.
Yeah.
No, but after the lockdown, and when we're allowed to visit each other, and this, people should be visiting
It's
people.
the
and
sense of
that's what
community.
and this is what these occasions do.
Yeah.
There are moments where, like people go, oh, it's Mother's Day. I'm going to do something special for my mother.
Yeah.
I don't celebrate Mother's Day. They say, why? I said, because my mother's special every day.
Yeah.
It's not, she doesn't need one day. I don't celebrate birthdays because my kids are special every day.
Yeah.
My wife's special every day so I don't get killed. Everyone's special every day. And that's why we have so many occasions in Islam for us to remember each other, to see the other people, see what's wrong with them. Well, if you take a look, the Imam says, Khislatan, and this is why because there's a lot of things that got to do with brotherhood on the day of Ghadeer, to tell people that you are my brother on this day, and the fraternity in Islam. Taban, I mean, fraternity, sorority,
Yeah.
it's all the
Yeah.
same, just in case, someone jumps on and wants to exacerbate the situation. So, if you take a look at this fraternity in Islam, and the existence of this fraternity, and the importance of this, when they asked, the Imam mentions, he says, Khislatan, there are two branches. He says, Laysa. If you imagine on a tree,
Yeah.
the height of the tree, the top of the tree is what's important. The bottom is where it begins. This is the beginning, but the important is the importance of the tree. The highest branches, the loftiest, he says, Khislatan. There are two qualities or two branches, you could say, speaking in this form. He says, Laysa fawqahuma shay. There is nothing above these two. He says, Al-imanu billah, believing in God,
Yep.
wa naf'ul ikhwan, and benefiting your brethren.
Wow.
This is important, because you need to be someone that's beneficial. So these days are days where I'm feeding people,
Yeah.
beneficial.
Yeah.
I'm helping people,
Yeah.
beneficial. Don't be someone that's a burden on others. Some people might use the Ghadeer as a day to do takfir on everybody. Oh, this person doesn't believe in Walayat Ali ibn Abdul, kafir, battery, bakri, a million terms they'll
Yeah.
generate.
Yeah.
That's not what it's about.
Yep. And that doesn't serve anybody.
This is a day of mercy, reminding the people that Ali is there. Ali is the wali. Ali is for you. It's the day that your deen was perfected. It was
Yes.
complete.
Yes.
This is for you.
And that was the revelation on the day, wasn't it? That
Yeah. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum. Allah Azza wa Jal perfected the religion.
Yeah.
Our deen was kamal on this day. Wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati. I've completed my blessing upon you. Why? This is the perfection of everything.
yeah.
This is the completion of everything. Is the wilaya. The wilaya is the way. If I want to know how, I want to see the Quran in action, it's Ali ibn Abi Talib. He's the animated Quran.
Yeah.
If I want to see the best, anything that would happen. Like, I remember one lecture I heard last year for Ghadeer. And this story was mentioned. I love this story. But the way he mentioned it was beautiful. Just sometimes people can tell stories.
Yeah.
They're really good storytellers. And Amir al-Mu'mineen, a person comes and asks to be his guest. In other words, when we say guest, he's not coming for a cup of tea. He's coming to have a meal and sit there.
Yeah.
So Amir al-Mu'mineen says to Imam Ali alayhi salam, says to Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, what do we have to eat? And she says, well, there's not even food. There's only enough that I was going to put for Al-Hasan wal-Hussein. For Al-Hasan Hussein are young. So the Imam says that they will sleep without supper, so we can give it to our guests,
Yeah.
to feed our guests.
Yep.
So they go to sleep. So Amir al-Mu'mineen, the guest comes in, but there's only enough food for the guest. So Amir al-Mu'mineen dims the lights, the candles, like turns off some of the candles so it's dark. And then sits with the guest and puts food in front of the guest and puts an empty bowl in front of himself, but the guests cannot see from the darkness. Just to make sure the guests feel, well, you're at home, we're all eating. And then he sits down, so the guest thinks Amir al-Mu'mineen is eating, and he's eating. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam comes and says, Ya Ali, what is it that you have done? That the angels have come down and Allah has revealed a verse to me based on what you just did. What is it that you did? وَيَأْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصًا. That, you know, يَأْثِرُونَ, it means that he says they give from themselves even that they are in privation. They are in need. They're giving what they can't give because they don't have other than that. Every action Amir al-Mu'mineen did, a verse came down teaching you to sacrifice, to give. Don't be someone that says to myself, you know, sometimes you tell people, give in the way of God, give to the poor. They say, well, I'm poor. You know, I haven't finished my mortgage on my second Lexus or Ferrari. You know, I can't go feed the poor. Amir al-Mu'mineen, if he had something, you have a look at a lot of these stories that teach you about giving, about, like, you know, things like, you know, when you're a child and your parents are pouring, you know, you ask your mum for juice or drink or whatever they give you, and then she'll pour 2 cups, and then you start measuring which one has more. That's the one you take for yourself,
of course,
obviously.
Of course.
And your brother gets one with less. That you're supposed to think of which is better, that's why I give to someone else. That's what altruism is. That's what the Imam teaches you, to be altruistic. He teaches you to sacrifice. He teaches you to have these qualities, to think that what about other people? How are they sleeping tonight? How are other people in the world sleeping?
I think especially today we forget that so easily.
No, we have to.
We're lost in our own comfort, in our own world, in our own issues and things, and we forget to look beyond our nose, so to speak.
No, but people sit and complain.
Yeah.
You know, I sit there and I was having a discussion with my brother yesterday. You know, because you start talking to people on the phone more often now. So I said to him, he said, it's funny, like, we're at home, we have clean water. We have clean, fresh water. And we are around our families. We have heating in this cold weather. We're sleeping in. And all this. And he said, we complain. We said we complained. I'm not talking about, so when I give a discussion, I want to tell our viewers, I'm not talking and pointing a finger at you. I'm pointing a finger at myself. I'm talking about me. I'm the one that complains. I'm the one that is insolent. And I say this I say this with no doubt whatsoever. I'm talking about myself. I'm not talking. Many of you are thankful, and I know this. But me, we sit and complain of our plight. We complain of our situation. Then you take a look at the world around you. Did you? And he mentioned that there was this comedian in Afghanistan that was killed by the Taliban. And he said that he watched this and he couldn't sleep afterwards. And I said, thank God no one ever showed me any video at all. He didn't actually see the kill, but he said as they were taking him away, he cracked a joke, thinking that they would laugh. He didn't realize these people are subhuman, you know?
They're a whole different kettle of fish.
So you think about that. Well, this person probably had a future, he had some ambitions, that's all just erased. And here I am sitting at home. We have a banquet that Pharaoh would have dreamt of. Honestly, the kings of hundreds of years ago would dream of the foods we eat. I'm not joking. What's available to us. Like we can eat mangoes in winter.
I actually had mangoes in winter, so
do you understand what I mean? We can eat what we want. Like if someone says, "Oh, you need to go to the French Alps to taste this," no, brother. No, I can get it in my house.
You can get it here, and probably better than what you'll find in the French Alps.
This is what we need to remember: the day of Ghadeer. To remember Ahl al-Bayt. Why? Because they are the ones that symbolize all this. They symbolize what it is to be a human being. Imam Ali alayhi salam teaches you that this person isn't a believer, or this person's a kafir, or Bakri, Batri, and every other label. He says he's either your brother in faith or he's your equal in creation. He's a human being.
It's that
That's it.
simple.
That's simple.
It's a simple. But
You want to condemn?
start with yourself.
Condemn yourself.
Yeah.
You'll be there all day.
Yeah.
You'll never finish.
Yeah.
You won't even get to picking on your spouse or picking on your children. You'll start with you. You'll never finish. Obviously, I speak to myself in this manner.
No, I understand.
That's the importance of Ghadir. It's about knowing who they were, so you know how to live as a human being. You know how to be a human being, an Adami.
Sheikh, I have a question that's come in on our live stream. I think you've already answered it in a way, but I'll ask you if you can give a brief response to this. That Eid al Ghadeer is an historical event. It's documented. It's there, and from what you've said, it is in the narrations and in the history of all of the Muslim sects.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. What is the reason that many or some of these sects are not familiar with Eid al Ghadeer? That if you talk to them about the successorship to Imam Ali alayhi salam, and about the event of Ghadirakum, it is as though this is a whole new revelation to them.
Firstly, we mentioned that human beings are worried about how to make an income.
Yep.
Everyone's worried about how to make money. And they're worried about the now and not the future.
Yeah.
They're worried about how do I get, like if you tell someone, they say, how do I become a CEO of a company?
Yeah.
They don't want to become an office boy. They don't want to become a PA.
Yeah.
They want to be the CEO right from day one.
Yeah.
They don't want to be on $10 minimum wage. They want to be on the maximum wage right from the start. That's all people are worried about in general. It's good to be greedy with regard to the hereafter. Why? Because it's eternal.
Yeah.
That's smart greediness.
Yeah.
It's bad to be greedy with the dunya because it's transient. This world's transient. You're going to lose it.
Yeah.
So a mu'min is actually greedy for the hereafter. So he's looking at the big picture. He's not looking at small fries. See, people that chase the dunya's currency, it's gone with the dunya.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine I'm living under a king, and when he dies, the next king's going to bringing a new currency, and everything's going to start from scratch.
Whatever you've
So
made
what's
so
the value
far
of the
is-
currency as long as this king's in power?
Yeah.
So while I'm here, so people are too busy with what's transient. People don't research. They don't study. Like I said, if you sit with people and ask them about religion, they really don't know. That's why they don't hear about it. We have a problem where we assume every person from every religion, even our religion, understands the religion. I was sitting with someone recently, and I mentioned to them that they were in a relationship with someone, and I said, so what kind of relationship? He says, oh, like we're going out.
Yeah.
They have an intimate relationship. And I said, she your wife? He said, no. I said, do you have a mut'a, temporary relationship with her? He said, no. He said, what's that? This is what I'm trying to tell you. They have no understanding of, and the funny thing is he didn't even know what the permanent relationship's like. What is it? People don't understand what it is. Because people have a misconception of things. They have a lack of understanding because there is no research, Haj.
Yeah.
There is no research. To say that the people, why don't they understand Imam Ali is the Khalif? I don't think they even know Abu Bakr is the Khalif, half the people you're talking to. Honestly, they don't even know. Do you ever see, it's like that child when he's first told that the Prophet has died and he starts to cry. Have you seen that video?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's a small child,
Yeah.
and they're talking and they tell him when the Prophet passed away, and he said, the Prophet's dead.
Yeah.
And he begins to weep.
Yeah.
Because it was like news to him.
Yeah.
He thought the Prophet's someone I'm going to meet
Yeah.
and I'm going to see right now. And this is the problem with people. They don't understand. They don't have... to get them to speak about the concept of wilaya, you have to start them somewhere.
Yeah.
So this is what the purpose of these events are, of us gathering, is to educate. And your job as a person is to what? Teach the people what you learn.
Yeah.
You see someone, you mention this. Every time I talk to someone, somehow I bring the discussion of religion. Whether they accept, like as they say, like throw the piece of clay at the wall.
Yeah.
Okay?
Let's see if it sticks.
If it doesn't stick, it will still mark the wall. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, that's an Arabic expression. I'm trying to make it into an English
it
one.
makes sense. It makes sense.
So you throw it at the, if it sticks, it might not stick, but it'll still make a mark.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. The last few questions, and then inshallah we'll start to wrap it up. We're nearing an hour of this discussion, and we don't want to start to bore people. Although I know that you and I could sit for hours. I'm quite happy with that. Let's translate the event of Ghadeer into Sydney or Australia or worldwide 2021, mid-pandemic, mid-everything, mid-wondrous technology, amidst the life that we lead. Where is Ghadeer in your and my life today?
Firstly, it not only has an effect and an understanding on our spiritual sense, we're talking about leadership.
Mm-hmm.
A leader must be someone that's worthy of the position. So even for your living here, you're going to elect someone. I remember once I'm not sure if it was the Greens Party or one of the parties, they had a motto, it was keep the so-and-sos honest.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So we know they're going to be there, they are a so-and-so, but keep them honest.
Yep.
So it's important that someone that leads has to be someone with some kind of integrity. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be perfect. Everyone's going to have their flaws. Yeah. But at least they've got to have some. They can't be like blatantly awful. You can't have a person that's like, let them have some shame. You know, there's got to be. It's like
in 2021, you're asking for a lot.
Yeah, but hold on. Listen. Well, if you know the guy coming into power is a cocaine addict,
yeah,
or the person has some a past that's not meant for leadership, it's something for you to actually take a stance to have someone that's honest. So, firstly, with leadership, to have someone that's honest in general, the person worthy of the position.
Yeah.
But when it comes to religious authority, it's only divinely appointed. Mm-hmm. It's even I can't discern if they're honest or not. Only God can. So when it comes to worldly affairs, I look for someone that's good enough for administration and governance and that. But when it comes to religion, no. You'll have only one leader. Yeah. And that's the Imam, Sahab al-Amri wa Zaman. That's your leader. Yeah. Everyone else that has a position, our ulama we respect, we place above our heads, because without them we don't understand our religion, but we only have one leader.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's the Imam. Other than that, the day of Ghadeer also, we're basically going back and forward here. It signifies the day where we discern truth from falsehood. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go back to the history, we could go over many events where the Prophet gave leadership to Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Yeah. But this was the final stamp point, because even at the time of his death, he was unable to do this. Yeah. Because they wouldn't allow him. Yeah. So for me, this was the last significant event that we actually had.
And I think that's a really important point. Yeah. Without effectively the Prophet's final testament, will and testament, which he was denied from providing in a written form, this is effectively the next best thing.
Well, that was
not to reduce the enormity of this event and the magnitude of this event and occasion and its significance, but this is the next best thing.
Yeah, well, it is, but it was already known by God that this was going to be the only one. That's why it was given that much significance. Yeah. Okay, today, living in the current pandemic that we are in, obviously, Imam Ali alayhi salam is the expert on faith. Yeah. The world you live in today, there are many people that are experts. Some are, as you know, X is an unknown factor and spurt is a drip under pressure. Some people are those kind of experts. Yep. But people sit there and they'll say, this guy used to be the ex-boss of Pfizer and he says this. I'm not going to listen to someone that's cranky at their old workplace, and their opinions, and then people sit there and, have you seen those people that get things and stick them to their body and say we're magnetic? Because this is ludicrous. Okay, you're told by our fuqaha
Yeah.
to listen to the opinions of medical experts.
Yep.
And medical experts aren't all in agreement with what's going on.
Yeah.
They all have different opinions.
That's right.
Okay? Neither party is wacko.
Yeah.
You know? It's good to listen to everyone's opinions on what's being said.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean? And so at this time we should listen to actual experts, not people that are influenced by government, not people that want more likes on
Facebook or
social
Instagram,
media,
yeah.
whatever they are, just to show. Because the better the conspiracy theory has, the more people you'll follow. So either side has their way of pushing people through.
Yeah.
It's a time for you actually to listen to actual experts and then give what's called a well educated opinion here. Because even when it comes back to when Imam Ali alayhi salam is in the battle of Jamal, because on one side is Aisha, who was the daughter of Abu Bakr, and she was the wife of the Prophet previously. And on the other side is Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. And they ask him who is in the right and who is in the wrong. And he says to them, أعرف الحق تعرف أهله أعرف الباطل تعرف أهله. No, discern what the truth is, you will know who the truthful.
Yep.
Discern what is falsehood, you'll know who's the false people. So you'll know who's in the right or in the wrong. You have to research.
Yep.
So it gives you an idea for you to sit there and have a well-educated guess, not sit there and watch conspiracy theory videos and
Yep.
go nuts.
Yep.
So in the world living today, and this is very important today. See, the people that are getting, and it's very important for me to say this, people getting vaccinated are getting vaccinated, okay, some of them I'm talking about, are getting vaccinated, and the first thing is they put up a picture of them getting vaccinated to say in your face,
Yeah.
I'm not one of the idiots.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, I don't know if you remember that clown that they had a video of, and he's in the rally and he's going, woohoo, 1,000 people have got
Yeah,
COVID
I
now.
saw that. I
Clown.
saw that. Yeah.
Like all those people that actually believe the virus doesn't even exist.
Oh.
So you got two sides pushing. Then you got the people showing they're getting vaccinated to let people know that this is safe.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you got the other side that says, listen, things don't add up because one second they say this, the next second they say that. People have reasonable opinions and they put you in a state of confusion. But if I research and I study, I'll come to the conclusion that is right for me.
Yeah.
So in this way, you're also told in today's day to have a well-educated and a well-informed opinion. Don't listen to disinformation or misinformation, that you are given. Have a well-informed opinion and a good understanding of what you do before you run in and do it.
So, right on that if we bring that back to Islam, to religion, to everything, the moment you start to study or investigate even the slightest thing about Imam Ali, set aside Imam Ali or Ali ibn Abi Talib, as is one of his other titles.
Yeah.
You will either come to the conclusion, and it's been said many, many times, so I'm only repeating it, you will either love Ali or you will hate Ali. There's no in between.
Well, that's true. There's no in between. But it'll be like the atheist approach towards God.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that hate God know God exists.
Yeah,
The ones that hate Ali hate him because they know who he is.
exactly.
It's not because they think he's wrong, because they are convinced now.
Yeah,
See, that's why they hate him. They're convinced he's in the right. There's no way, there is no an inkling of a doubt that you will not believe Ali is who he is. There's
100%.
nothing. Every good quality is in Ali.
he's the embodiment.
So the reason why you will hate him, if you do hate him, God forbid, is because you can't handle the actual truth.
Yeah.
What's been told, you can't handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point, that you can try to deny his status, not in my eyes or your eyes, but in God's eyes, the status that has been God given to him. But that's a fallacy in itself.
It's like denying the sun exists.
Yeah, 100%.
That's it. You
Absolutely.
cannot.
Yeah.
To deny his virtues like denying the sun exists.
Sheikh, one question that's come up on our stream is where does Dua Nadi Ali come from?
Okay. Since we haven't, I haven't done the research for this, but it is an actual valid dua.
Yeah.
See, some people have an issue with it because they have a Wahhabi-esque mentality. where they think it's got to do with tawassul,
Yeah.
and which is another subject, but they have a feeling that if I ask other than God, then it's forbidden. Of course, if you ask other than God, it is forbidden.
Yeah.
This is shirk,
Yeah.
to take partners with God. And anyone that believes that any of God's creations is independent from God, this is shirk, this is disbelief.
Yeah, completely.
So, and in fact, Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in the Quran, He says, He uses the word nid or andad in a plural.
Yep.
The nid lillah means another entity like a God.
Yeah.
We don't have this.
Yeah.
We believe Ali is the slave of God.
Yeah.
Rasulullah Muhammad is the slave of God, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Salawatullah alayhim ajma'in. We believe they all are in this position.
Yeah.
However, Allah Azza wa Jal favors people. He says, when you talk to me, I want you to, for example, pray in this way.
Yes.
When you do Hajj, do it in this way.
Yeah.
When you do supplication, I want you to do it this way. I want you to do it in this. So if you look at the thing, Nadi Ali, Qul Ali Madhar al Ajaib, the manifester of wonders.
Yeah.
When people sit there and go, oh, you're trying to say he's like God. No. God is laysa kamithlihi shay. God cannot even be, you can't even conjure up and understand what God is. You can't even understand who the Four Masumina are. So imagine, you can't understand the creation. How can you understand the Creator? But when I ask through Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, Allah loves Ali. If you come up and you ask in the name of Rasulullah, Allah says in the Quran, إِذْ جَاءُوكَ, if they come to you, O Rasulullah, they come to you, not to وَاسْتَغْفَرُ اللَّهِ وَاسْتَغْفَرَ لَهُمُ الرَّسُولُ. When they come to the Prophet and they seek, and it's even in the ziyarah of Rasulullah, and it's a verse of the Quran, unless they want to deny the Quran. لَوَجَدُ اللَّهَ التَّوَّابِ. Allah loves when they come through Rasulullah. He will never turn people away when they come through Rasulullah. And people want to argue, sometimes when you say, for example, I tell people when I want something, I ask Allah for the love of Al-Banin, بحق Al-Banin. Nothing I've ever asked for I did not get. When I ask for Al-Banin, Allah loves Al-Banin. I have no doubt about this. I have no doubt about all these things. When sometimes people want to look for another way around,
Sheikh,
you're not going to find it.
They're not going to find it, but it's let's say you have an au pair who needs a visa, and you happen to be friends with the Minister for Immigration. Let's say
this hasn't happened before, but
no, just a complete hypothetical, right? And
if I'm a white South African farmer,
could be. And you come to me and you say, Ali Sharif, look, I have a problem. Can you talk to your friend who's the immigration minister to help me sort this out?
It's done.
It's done. But if you try to go to the immigration minister yourself, you say, sorry, Mohammed, who are you?
That's right. See, the thing is, but that's also in the fact that the immigration minister doesn't really know you. God knows you.
100%.
And God will answer your prayers.
Completely, totally.
But when you come to God through this door,
through the favored channels, through the favored means.
Look, if you take a look, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, for example, when the Imams speak about, Taban, it's not the day of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it's the day of all the Imams, obviously. But if you look at them all, they say, we are all Sufnun Najat. We are all the ships of salvation. They say, but the ship of Hussein is faster. This is what the Imam says. This is the faster way. You won't come through this door. This door doesn't get closed. That's why when people tell me I want something, I say go to Karbala. They tell you if I go. I say, what do you mean if?
Sheikh, if you want something, recite Ziyarat Ashura for 40 days.
Look, we can go on and on. But when people sit there and say this is taking partners in God, God forbid.
No,
you need to give me evidence of this. Because then that means God, when he told the angels to prostrate to Adam, he performed shirk. God performed shirk by telling them prostrate to Adam. When God told them to go to the Prophet to do tawbah, that was shirk. When Yaqub, his sons, came to ask for repentance, One Yaqub say, go to God, why have you come to me, you disbelievers, you polytheists?
Yeah.
No, they come. You know, even in the Bible it says, Jesus says in the Bible, I am the way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
this is the way to God,
Yeah.
through me.
Yeah.
There's only one way to God, through who Allah has appointed.
And I think that is the key point of what you've mentioned. This is the way, this is the channel through which.
Well, this is what Ghadir is about. It's who God appoints.
Yeah.
Even if you look when Talut or Saul is appointed, what do they say? This guy hasn't got any money, he's an unknown.
Yeah.
God appointed him. Allah appoints whom He wishes.
Yeah.
And Allah, not only that, Allah doesn't appoint a random.
Yes.
He appoints the best.
Yeah.
If He puts someone and says he is your Imam, there is no one better than him.
None.
He is the Prophet above everyone. It's not in the justice of God to place someone above someone when they are less than them.
Yeah.
If He says, if God said, for example, to any of the Imams, in general, that they have to, if He says the Rasul has to be obedient to them, God will never do this, because His greatest creation is Rasulullah.
Yeah.
He's great. There's nothing greater than Rasulullah.
Yeah.
Everything is subservient to Rasulullah.
Yeah.
After Rasulullah, everything is subservient to Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Yeah, in that sense.
Ahsan, Sheikh. Final question for you, and then inshallah we'll wrap it up. More of I'll pose a scenario to you. It's kind of a question/scenario. Here we are today. We have 1400 odd years of Islamic history behind us. We have the event of Ghadir. We recognize Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam as the first holy Imam in Shia Islam. Today, what can I do practically to ensure that I recognize that imamah and to pay the respect that it is due for me to pay, minute by minute, day by day? What can I do as a man, as a believing man, as a believing woman, as a child? What can I do
In the current situation.
today, in our life today?
Well, firstly, I mentioned some of the things like feeding people and visiting people in the name of Ali to recognize. But other than that recognition is their remembrance, to relive the commandments, to mention the commandments, write something about it, give a discussion about it, give a discourse about it, put up ideas. Like rather than say, for example, all right, today is the day of Ghadir, write some points as to what this day is, what took place, how is it significant to me? Here's your question.
Yeah.
How is it significant to me? It's significant because now I can see, because you get a lot of different opinions of what Islam is. This person gets up, says this is Islam. Another person gives up and says this is the opinion of Islam. I say, all right, give me everyone's opinion. I look at Ali ibn Abi Talib. What does
What
Ali
did he
say
say? Yeah.
compared to what they're saying?
Yeah.
If a hadith says this and they're saying that,
Yep.
how people say, hold it, is this hadith sahih or not? What are the scales that I'm going to use to determine whether the hadith, this is another discussion altogether. But if you're looking at the actual narration, it has the same value or way as the other narrations have. This is what is the word that should be spread. Not some person bringing up some random narration that they've got from out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Or there are people that actually, they give opinions contrary to the Quran. You notice, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam brought us back to the Quran.
Yeah.
They said, Ya Ali, man nas'al ba'dak. They actually asked him, who do we ask after you? He says, go to the Quran. Why? Because the Quran will never deviate.
Yep.
It's a book of guidance. It will always guide you. When you read, you'll know what's true. So if I read a hadith that doesn't agree with the Quran,
yep.
obviously from an educated understanding,
Yeah.
not someone that's read 2 words in the Quran. Remember like that guy that said, I'm the Mahdi, and then he said, speak in Arabic, and he read the Fatiha. No, it has to be something where it's educated, understood, well informed. So what I find out here, for the day of Ghadir, this is the most significant point, that there's only one truth.
Yep.
One truth. How many truths? One sirat. Religion's not pluralistic.
Not at all.
There's only one truth.
Yeah.
What doesn't mean everyone else goes to hell. It's not talking about heaven and hell.
But that's a different discussion.
That's a different discussion. There's only one truth. That's the truth you have to go to. And the bottom line is, the baseline is this. The truth is the truth. You have to accept it. If you know the truth in your heart and you reject it, then you go to hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you don't know the truth and you're still seeking the truth, Allah says in the Quran, what? فَأَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. The reward is with God. As long as you're wayfaring, you're still seeking the path, you're moving towards, you're a journeyman, you know, a journey person, so people don't get upset, you know. So you're on that path, you know. You're moving on that path to learn the truth, but the truth is Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And that's what we're giving it to you right from the start. Before you do your research, start with Ali, and you'll never leave. You don't need to go anywhere else.
You don't need to go anywhere.
Well, this is the thing.
Okay,
I'm giving you the answer. The answer to the question is Ali ibn Abi Talib. The whole exam, the answer is Ali ibn Abi Talib. When you understand Ali, you'll understand your religion.
Sheikh, inshallah we can understand Ali.
When you understand...
It's a lifelong...
Yeah, I know, but when you understand this is where I research. Because then you go, hold on. Like, when you start, you know, if someone reads Nahj al-Balagha for the first time, they say, wow, what is this I've been missing?
Yes.
And you tell them Nahj al-Balagha is only a compilation of the things he said.
Yes.
There's much more than this.
Yes.
Of the things he's done.
But for the average person, such as it's a beautiful entry into
Mate,
Imam Ali alayhi salam.
I always mention to people, I say Schuster and Siegel had to invent Superman.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have Ali ibn Abi Talib. That's why they invented Superman. They didn't have Ali ibn Abi Talib. If they had Ali ibn Abi Talib, there would be no DC Comics wouldn't have begun. Wouldn't exist.
Wouldn't need this fantasy. Okay, Sheikh, I know I promised last one, but genuinely this is the last one. Okay, comment has come through. Explain this phrase: "Live like Ali, die like Hussein."
I've never liked this phrase.
Why is that?
Because it's untrue. It's like saying that all the Imams did not die like Hussein. They were all martyrs.
No, it's not. It's not. I don't think that's what it's getting at. I think what it's saying is it's a message to us.
No,
right?
no, but I've seen it. They'll say, for example, live like Muhammad, fight like Ali, die like Hussein. I've seen a lot of these. I've never liked them because some people will say, and I've heard these people, some people say, I'm a Husseini, not a Hassani. They don't understand.
I think they've missed the point.
That's what we're talking about. How do I live? I live like Ahlul Bayt. And this is something I didn't want to delve into today. But every Imam had a different scenario. If you look at every Imam, listen.
They each had a different mission.
No, they had also different. It's not. They had the same mission. Listen, but different scenarios, different. Allah Azza wa Jal would give you every Imam. No Imam had the same situation. Have a look at it.
Yep, true.
For example, some became Imams at old age.
They took and some at very young age.
Very young. So Allah would give you a situation. Some were in prison. Some were under.
Some were
some were at war. Some were oppressed. Some were able to teach. Some were not. So Allah shows you in every situation how one should be. They're your example. So I have to live like Ali. I have to live like Al-Hassan and Hussein and the 9 Ma'sumin after Imam Hussein. And I have to die like all of them. How? Upon my religion. To die like Imam Hussein alayhi salam is a very macabre, very tragic way to go. Yani, you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy. If someone actually asked you, do you want to die witnessing your children slaughtered in front of your eyes? I don't think anyone would.
No, I think anybody would say no. But
so I don't know what they mean by die like Hussein.
The message
Imam
there
Hussein
is...
alayhi salam, obviously it's a day of celebration, but to even mention this, like no one wants this.
I think
even Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, when she was informed that this is the way he'll be killed, she didn't want this child. She didn't want to bring it into the world. The narrations say this. No one wants this. So I really don't want this.
I think the message though is to live your life in the manner that Imam Ali lived his life. And with, not to say that any of the Imams didn't do this, but to aspire to be able to sacrifice what you need to for the sake of God. As as a lay person today, I speak of myself first, I can only hope to be able to do that.
I don't think I'd ever be able to do that. I don't think anyone would be able to do what Imam. It's just like on the day
No,
of.
we can't.
It's
but we
like
can.
the day of Khandaq.
Yeah.
Listen, when you talk about the day of Khandaq,
Yeah.
the who's who was there.
Yeah.
The best companions
Yeah.
and the worst companions. So you can't sit there and say, all right, this guy didn't get up and fight. There were warriors that were there, they didn't get up.
Yeah.
When Amr came, I know, for example, say Jafar Murtada al-Amili, rahmatullah alayh, gives an opinion as to say, oh, this companion was there. And I say, hold on, that's also one, and obviously he's a muhaqqiq and a scholar, but that's one opinion.
Yeah.
But from what I've understood from other researchers, that everyone was there. And when the Prophet said, who will answer Amr? No one could stand except Ali ibn Abi Talib.
Yes.
And another thing to prove, Amir al-Mu'mineen said, لا تقدروا على هذا. He said, no one can be like this. But then he gives us a message. ولكن أعينوني. Help. With what? He says, by being what? By having this patience, by having this sacrifice, by having, to the best of your ability, having taqwa.
Exactly.
Having righteousness, but to reach their level and to live, I would say that the reason I don't like this statement, because I believe I want to live like they all lived.
Yeah.
I want to die upon my religion. But
Inshallah.
you don't ever ask, see when we ask, وَقَتْلًا فِي سَبِيلِكَ, we ask Allah Azza wa Jal in a dua to die in His way, to be killed in His way, which is an honor, it's martyrdom. But not the way that the Imam, not to witness your family slaughtered before your eyes. That's not something I'd ever ask for.
That was the ultimate sacrifice.
Look, I'll tell you something. Some people might disbelieve at this point, you know, to be in that position. I'm not saying people are incapable of sacrifice. No, they are capable.
Yeah.
And there's many great people that were capable, but the test shows.
Yeah.
You'll see the someone's metal at the time of.
True.
You'll see whether they're malleable or whether they're firm.
We can aspire and hope that we could withstand such a test, but inshallah we're never tested in that way. That we may fail. That we may fail.
Yeah.
Right?
Allah,
I would never want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would never want to fail that test. But
No,
we
inshallah.
aspire to be, like you've said, we aspire to be like all of the Imams, like all of the household of the Holy Prophet, male, female, and so on and so on. Sheikh, a couple of closing comments, and then inshallah we'll finish with Dua Faraj from you. Inshallah we have our Muharram programs coming very, very quickly, very, very soon, in roughly about 10 days. Unfortunately for Sydney at least, it seems as though at this stage all of the programs will need to be online. Inshallah you keep in touch with the health authorities, you keep in touch with the news that we put out in terms of our programs and things, and we'll keep you informed with how the programs are going to be run and what is going to be possible. Inshallah we have a miraculous change in the circumstances that we face, so that we may gather together in the different Husayniyah around the world to commemorate the events of Ashura and Karbala, and to remember our Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and all of his companions and those tragic events as well. But so we have all of our various media: WhatsApp, Facebook, email, web, etc., etc. But my final and my closing comment, Sheikh, is Nare Haydari Ya Ali. Sheikhna, faddal with Dua Faraj, inshallah.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم قل لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وإلى أرواح موتانا ومتى قبول الأعمال وتعجيل الفرج، والأرواح الشهداء والصالحين والمؤمنين، رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.